Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. Reed should be here very, very soon, but the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com, and we are rejoined by a very special guest, Mr. Zach Selby of the Washington Commanders. Thank you for blessing us on this beautiful, well, it's not really beautiful, it's storming, but it's beautifully storming outside for this episode of Command Camp. Zach, how are you doing?
Well, I'll tell you, I will take this stormy weather over what we had to deal with last year and the constant sun that was beating down on all of us and giving me just hellacious sunburn. So I will take this any day of the week. Honestly, if the entirety of camp was like this, I would not mind it at all.
I feel you on that, and guys on the construction site would have to agree with you as well. Just walking to the car is like sweating enough, but we don't need to get into gross things, Selby. Getting into some really beautiful things. I want to kind of talk about Sam Howell here because you had just talked about in your notes from on commanders.com in your brief little day 2 recap of today, you talked about Sam Howell, and a lot of great things have been said about Sam Howell, so I want to get your opinion on what happened today.
Yeah, I mean, I would say today probably wasn't as strong as maybe the first day, just because whenever they were doing team drills, it looked like they were doing like blitz pickup. And blitz pickup is a little bit harder for offenses when there's no pads because the defensive linemen are allowed to go a little bit harder than the offensive linemen are really allowed to. And like you really can't be as physical as you'd want to be without pads on. So there's some of that there. But I think overall, I think he's looked pretty much exactly as we thought he was going to look. I haven't seen anything yet that would make me kind of doubt whether or not he can actually be a starting quarterback. He's delivered some dots. I mean, honestly, so especially in that first bit of camp, I mean, he was delivering the ball in tight windows. The ball placement has just been really spectacular to me in some instances. Like, I mean, there's been that the throw to Terry that was on Forbes. Everyone's seen that by now. But there's also been a couple to Jahan, him and Cole Turner and Logan Thomas have connected really well. Now, still, there's some things I would like him to see if he improves on. The red zone has been, I wouldn't say an area of concern, but more of like just an area I want to see him improve upon, just because the obviously the windows are tighter in the red zone. The plays are happening much faster. So you want to see, and he's a young player, so obviously those things are going to be a little bit quicker and a little bit of time. They're going to need a little bit of time for him to adjust to. But overall, I would say he's been pretty solid. Again, I haven't seen anything that made me say, oh, he absolutely cannot be a starting quarterback for the Washington Commanders in 2023.
Yeah, real quick before Hall goes, I'm not trying to talk crap about anybody, but Carson Wentz coming into this system last year under Scott Turner, he had to learn a new offense. So in contrast and comparing last year to this year and the start of training camp, have you noticed any differences or is it more similarities?
I mean, I would say, in terms of retaining the information, I would say, Howell has done a good job of that. I mean, he's really taken to it, I think. And I know, Carson was out there and he had his problems and everything, but, I think Sam has really, he had to unlearn basically everything that he had to grasp last year. And he's looked efficient doing it. Of course, like I said, like there are some moments there where he shows that he's a second-year player with not a whole lot of snaps under his belt. But I would say that, all things considering that he's learning an entirely new offense, really just getting a chance to work with all these receivers as a starter, really for not the first time, but, one of the newer times for him. He's done a good job. I mean, he's really dived into the studying aspect of it. He said early, yesterday that he has total command of the offense, which I think says a lot about where he's at in his mental capacity and like how he's able to grasp on the mental aspects of the game. All of his teammates have pretty much said that he's really taken that by the horns, which I I really do admire, because learning those playbooks just looks so intimidating to me. Those things look like, I don't know, the Gutenberg Bible or something, some insanely large piece of literature that you just have to study for the last second. But I've been impressed with him, knowing the plays, and I mean he's gonna continue to develop. But I have really high hopes for what he can accomplish.
Yeah, I think everyone is kind of like hoping and kind of seeing the progression, and kind of hoping that he turns into that guy and plays like that guy. But to speak of a guy that hasn't really been talked about a lot, you've seen the highlights of Terry. You mentioned he had a couple good throws to Jahan Dotson. The tight ends have been doing their thing in camp as well. What about a guy like Curtis Samuel, who I think can be an integral piece of this offense this year with a offensive guy like Eric Bieniemy? What does he look like in camp? Because I haven't really seen any highlights or heard any. It's only been 2 days, but haven't heard much about Curtis Samuel so far.
Yeah, I mean he's had his moments. I would say he definitely is not got maybe as much as the fanfare, but I mean he's still just a completely dynamic player. I mean his athleticism is there. I mean he made a lot of plays during OTAs and minicamp, so I think he definitely is going to find a decent home in this offense, because when you have a player that athletic and that capable of just make plays wherever you're at on the field, I think you have no choice but to find ways to use them, similar to how Antonio Gibson is. I mean, they can line him up at receiver. I mean, they can line him up as a running back. Now, obviously, you're not going to do that, line him up at running back as much as you would at AG for Curtis Samuel, but he does have that ability. And I would give it a little bit of time. It is just the first couple of days of camp. But Sam is working with his connections on basically every single receiver, and I don't doubt that he'll show out a little bit here, in the next couple of days or so.
Yeah, and then Selby, the one player that took everybody by storm, Terry, made the play of the day, Diami Brown, with a huge catch down the field. Kind of talk about him, because he's a name that I've been bringing up and saying, watch out for Diami Brown this season. His college quarterback is here starting. You better watch out for him, and he's showing early on. Kind of talk to us about his progression so far the first 2 days.
Yeah, Diami is really he had a really good day. I'd probably say one of the stronger days of any of the receivers. Yeah, that play that he made over Tariq Castrofields is the big highlight. But he also had a lot of other plays too. He was wide open on a play during 7-on-7s, and he had a really nice catch near the corner of the end zone, near the red zone. And Sam was throwing him that pass. I mean, first of all, the ball placement on that again was just fantastic. But Diami snatched that out of the air before I forget who the DB was that was trying to make a play on it. But I mean, he snatched it out of the air before the DB could even get close to it. And we'll see. I don't know if it was actually a catch or not. It was very close. But he tried his best to keep his feet in bounds, and it was a very athletic play just to be able to be in position to get that ball. But I am very curious about where Diami is going to fit into this system, because I think they do want to use him. He does have a really nice skill set, especially when he comes down to catching vertical passes like that. But we'll see where he goes. Because he's not going to be the top 3 option. He's going to be the number 4, clearly to me. But I think if he can reignite that connection he had with Sam back in UNC, that's just another way to take a top off of the defense, because that's Diami did very, very well in college. He had a lot of contested catches. And one of the reasons North Carolina was so successful back in 2021, I believe, was because Diami had that connection with Sam. So we'll see how it goes. That'll be one of the things that I watch as camp progresses throughout, end of week 1 and starting into week 2.
Yeah, definitely. If there's going to be a time for Diami to step up, this would definitely be the year with Sam Howell being the quarterback going into week 1, hopefully, or more than likely, we should all say. But to flip to the other side of the ball, got to talk about big number 99, Chase Young. He was out there without the brace on today, and there's been a little clip circulating on Twitter of him hitting that quick twitch on Charles Leno and just going inside and getting in Sam Howell's face. I know it's only been 2 days. There's no pads on yet, and obviously the linemen aren't doing cut blocks, and they're not really being that physical. But what are you expecting from Chase Young? Because just based off the offseason, minicamp, and OTAs, and a couple of days of training camp, it's looking like he might return to that 2020 form.
And it was really cool to hear that Montez Sweat actually went with Chase Young to go do the training at
Yeah.
OSU with his former coach. I thought that was really cool to hear. Sorry, Selby.
Yeah, no, I think the fact that he went back to Larry Johnson, who is considered by many to be one of the better pass rush defensive line coaches in college or in the NFL, I think that just speaks a lot to how dedicated Chase is to making sure this year is exactly what he expects it to be. Chase was actually asked about whether or not he thinks he's back to 2020 form, and he said he wouldn't necessarily say it was there yet. But he does think that he's moving well. He's feeling explosive, which honestly, like, considering the fact that we've only seen him in mandatory minicamp and 2 days of training camp where you're not really going to be in pads, you're not going to do a whole lot of physical contact, I think that's about as good as you can hope for right now. I think the real test is going to be whenever the pads come on. And I shouldn't say test because it makes it seem like there's something we're still waiting on to see from Chase. I think he, as far as athleticism has gone, I think Chase has shown us exactly what we need to see, is that he's not hindered by his knee. He's showing confidence. He's not rushing with any hesitation or anything like that. He's full go. Like he's full. I think he's about as healthy as he's been since 2020. So I would probably say that, when the pads come on, that's going to be a real indicator of, when we're going to see maybe the quote unquote old Chase Young, the one that was, really wrecking offenses and making all these different plays. I'm excited to see that again. So Tuesday, I think, is going to be a big barometer for this team in a lot of different ways. So mark Tuesday on your calendar, not just for that, but for also just because Chase Young gets to show exactly how far he's come during his recovery.
Yeah, it's not the old Chase. It's the Super Saiyan Chase, if all my
Yeah,
Dragon Ball Z fans out there. To wrap this up, Selby, I only have a couple more questions for you, but we got to get as much info as we can as possible because this is the first day of training camp. Fans are finally there. But besides it being training camp, it was also Sadiq Charles' birthday. So happy birthday to Sadiq Charles. And he kind of got to start at left guard. I know it's kind of hard to watch the linemen during 11-on-11s, but what have you noticed from Sadiq Charles so far the first 2 days?
Yeah, it's definitely tough just because considering where we are at in terms of where, you've been on the practice field, so like when they're on that far practice field or that one that's closest to us, we're not really viewing it from the right side back. We're not really viewing the left side of the offensive line that much. We don't really get like a good sight on it. But I would say that Sadiq he's an interesting case study, I think, because he's a guy who like whenever he's out there on the field, he's done his job. He's been productive, but getting on the field has been kind of an issue for him because whether it's injuries or being a backup, he hasn't been on the field as much as I think that they hoped he would be back when he was drafted in 2020. But I think he really seems dedicated. I think he seems focused. I think he understands the significance of the opportunity that he has in front of him. I mean, he has a chance to be a starter in the NFL after dealing with all the injuries that he's dealt with pretty much since day one of his rookie training camp.
One.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, he missed. I think he missed basically all of training camp in his rookie year because of a calf injury. Yeah. So for him to go through all this and then be an NFL starter, I think would be a tremendous accomplishment for him. So that's definitely, if there's one battle you want to watch on the offensive line, that's the one. So it's between him and Chris Paul, and I think that's another one where you really see once the pads come on, that's when the true evaluation of the offensive line kind of starts for us, at least, just because it's hard for an offensive lineman to be physical and really do a lot of things that you're supposed to do whenever you're in shells or you're in jerseys or things like that. Like it's just not. It just doesn't sync well up to their style of play. So again, once Tuesday happens, we'll have a better idea about who exactly stands where on the O-line.
All right, so basically, do not ask any offensive lineman questions if they're not wearing pads. I got you, Selby. Now, my next one for you, the tight end position. I read your article, your past two articles of the past 2 days of training camp at the WashingtonCommanders.com, and you talked about the tight ends. So please, if you could, explain to us how the tight ends have looked so far.
They've looked really good. I think we've all been pretty impressed with what what they've been able to put out there. I mean, their connection with Sam is, I think, about as good as you can hope for right now, which is a good thing considering that, they always say tight ends are a young quarterback's best friends, and they say that for a reason, because you've got two guys who are 6'6", with an insanely large wingspan in Cole Turner and Logan Thomas out here trying to catch passes from Sam, and they look good doing it. I mean, I think I've always said that I think this tight end more talented position groups when they're all healthy on the field.
I agree with you there. Just need the health to actually come. You know what I'm saying? Look, Selby's connection has gone out just for a little bit. Hopefully he's still here when he comes back. Here we are. Oh, I see his mouth moving. Now you're good, Selby. Keep going.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I was saying, like, you got Logan Thomas, who is the dual. He can block, he can catch passes. You got Cole Turner, who is got a former receiver background, and I think if he's really come on over the last couple of days with some really impressive catches. You have John Bates, who I think is still, one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. So I think that group is coming along as good as any other position group on offense. And I can't wait to see them go against another defense, like with Baltimore, or even before that with Cleveland, just to get a little bit of a taste about how pivotal the tight end position can be for Bieniemy's offense.
I got you. And then before, you were talking about Diami Brown's touchdown in the end zone. That was to Wild Goose, who was questioning if it was a touchdown or not. But the last question I have for you, sir, who was the starting secondary, the lineup for the start of practice, and then kind of give us an update on the rookies and how they've done so far?
Yeah, so in terms of the secondary, it's kind of what I thought it would be. St. Juste is at the slot. So I kind of thought he was going to be on the outside, but it seems like they want to kick him back in the slot. But I guess in terms of the players that were out there, it didn't really surprise me. Cam Curl and Derek Forrest were your safeties. Then you got Forbes on the outside with St. Juste on the inside. But the thing is, too, is that both St. Juste and St. Juste and Forbes have kind of rotated a little bit of that slot position. St. Juste probably stuck there more than Forbes had, just because I think he's better at that position. But I would still say Forbes will probably get a couple of snaps in there, just because they like their DBs to be so versatile that they can put him around in different spots on the field. So I think this secondary is going to morph into a lot of different things over the course of the season. Now, in terms of the rookies, I think the rookies they've done their thing. Stromberg has working with the 2s and the 3s, doing his thing. Again, hard to really judge with an off the line talent, but it's good to see that he's mixing in with the primary backups. Same thing with Braden Daniels working in with the 3s. Forbes, we all know that Forbes has made some pretty impressive pass breakups. Chris Rodriguez made a pretty decent catch during team drills today. I like to see that, especially with Chris Rodriguez. Supposedly, Bieniemy vouching for him. But yeah, I think this group is coming along well. It's going to be another test for them to see, like I say, again, when the pads come on. But they've come a long way from that first rookie minicamp, when some of them were kind of gassed a little bit, kind of get adjusted to the speed and the intensity of NFL practices. So I think this is a group that could contribute, not immediately, but be a pretty important part to what both sides of the ball are doing. So again, can't wait to see how they progress heading into week 2.
My man, real quick, was this the best training camp that you've seen with the Commanders so far? Just in terms of the energy and the vibes and everything.
Yeah, energy and the vibes for sure, I think, was definitely probably the best, just because I don't think I've ever seen that many fans out there for a practice. I mean, that was really cool just to see how many fans were out there, and it was awesome to hear all the cheers whenever Diami made that catch, or Terry would made his catch down the field. I think the vibes are high right now with the Commanders, and let's ride that wave a little bit longer, I say.
Absolutely, and you could definitely tell with Coach Rivera as well. That definitely seems like a different vibe with him as well. Selby, I
For
can't
sure.
thank you enough for joining us and taking your time out to come join us and talk a little bit with us knuckleheads about what you saw at training camp, because your job is hard enough as it is. Any time with you is fantastic. Go enjoy your drive, sir. Enjoy your night, and get back to work tomorrow. And I'm excited to see all the updates you have for us on Twitter.
All right, y'all take it easy.
Thanks, Zach. Talk to you
Appreciate it.
tomorrow. All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Zach Selby of the Washington Commanders. He has
Yes,
a long commute
sir.
home. Oh, yeah, he does
Yeah,
live in
right.
Maryland now, apparently.
Oh, does he really? He
does.
moved. Wow,
Yeah,
nice.
he told us that like last.
Oh no, that was such a while. That was a while ago. Yeah, I do remember
It
that.
was a while ago. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
Real quick, before we get into our fan questions and everything, just kind of want to talk about the new bleacher setup and just looking at training camp. We were at training camp last year. We went to Richmond before that. Kind of talk about your opinion on the matter.
I actually didn't go last year. I went 2 years ago. Last time I was there was 2021. But I mean, just even the vibe from 2021 when we were coming off of that playoff loss to Tampa Bay with Taylor Heineke, and there was a little bit of hype. Obviously, like the Mike Greenbergs and the people like that were kind of picking us as like the sleeper in the NFC, maybe go to the Super Bowl. So there was a lot of hype even then, but there was still not a lot of like fanfare and a lot of interaction with the fans at training camp. And even the vibe, even though, like I said, coming off the kind of the playoff loss to Tampa Bay, even the vibe around the team was kind of like, like we'll see. Like, got to prove it to us type of thing. Where as opposed to now, I feel like just seeing people's videos on Twitter and just having people tweet stuff and all the updates that we've been seeing, it's kind of like, it's not like you still got to prove it, but I think a lot of people are kind of like giving them the benefit of the doubt type of thing. Whereas before, obviously, there was no benefit of the doubt. It's like I said, you're always going to fail until you prove it's otherwise. Where I think now it's kind of like the black cloud per se has been lifted and there's hope again and the vibes are high. And I think that, like I said, people are starting to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, maybe they do have something here, as opposed to, oh, here comes another loser season again. I can't wait till the new regime gets here. Even though there is that still like subset of like fans, which there's always going to be those like fans that are like that. They're always negative until you actually win a Super Bowl or show them otherwise. But I think the overall positivity is back, and I just think that this is something that probably I've been waiting for. I mean, I just started going to training camp recently, but I've always like had people like friends and family that go, and I think that this is the first time where I think probably since 2012 when I saw a video of 2012, I think this is going to be the first time where I go where I'm like, the vibe is going to be like an actual like NFL franchise, an NFL training camp with a lot of fans out there, a lot of interactions, and like I said, just a lot of positivity and a lot of good vibes.
Yeah, look, I went to training camp probably back when I was like 16, so back in 2006, and it was very congested. It was hot. There was a lot of people there, but there were no stands. Everyone was standing, just yelling, your normal stuff. And then when we went to Richmond, it was like they had like a hill that you could sit on and everything, but it wasn't like they didn't have anything. It didn't seem set up.
There was still barely any shade in the hill. It was still like hot as hell.
And so the fact that just the stands by themselves is just a huge monumental move in the right direction, just because like I talked about in the last episode back before, it was like you weren't supposed to be there. It was just like you're walking through the woods to go to a practice, and it looks totally different now, and it's really cool to see. And then the other thing is Carmi and others in the group chat that I'm in with them, they had posted the actual sheet and paper of the Harris group coming out and saying this is what we're spending the money on at FedEx Field, and all the upgrades and the concessions were on there, infrastructure was on there. And so I think the openness is insane. Just like having the ability to say this is what we're spending money on, this is how much money we're spending on it. It's a complete 180 from Snyder. Whereas like that dude's trying to hide the books and they're showing us the books, which is really, really cool.
Right.
What's up, Reed?
What's that? Can you even hear me right now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I made a super fire joke. Nobody laughed. I was like, what the hell's going on?
Oh, what'd you say?
I don't know. You said something about back when you were 16. I was like, back when you were hot. And then you're like, yeah, it was hot in training camp.
Oh, yeah, that's
like,
not a good
come on,
joke.
Kyle. Keep up, dog.
Let's go to our fan questions to wrap up this episode. Did you have anything to say about the training camp today? Anything that was crazy?
Sam Howell throws a beautiful deep ball. I know that we've all said that, and Chase seemed to have looked pretty good. Chase has looked sharp. Good for him, man. He looked explosive. That's what you want to see. JMO, chill. That's what you want to see.
No, honestly, he just looks comfortable and like
Yeah.
looks like himself. I was texting with my little brother earlier, and I was saying like he looks like his rookie self. I'm sure he's going to be holding himself back to say that, but he
Yeah.
looks like the normal Chase Young, and keeping him healthy is obviously more important than anything right now. But before we are joined by our next guest, let's answer some fan questions. And this one is from the Colonel. Considering the success of Brock Purdy in San Francisco, Hall, before his brutal playoff-ending injury, I'm surprised the pundits are so negative about Sam Howell. Who has a stronger arm and is more mobile? In the immortal words of George W. Bush, are they misunderestimating Sam Howell, especially in the light of the arrival of EB?
It's a good question. Yeah, I mean the comparison to Brock Purdy obviously is there, and I know a lot of people tried to do that last year, and then everyone's rebuttal was, well, Kyle Shanahan and Scott Turner, you can't compare the two. But maybe a guy even if EB is unproven, I think that it's not going to be all just like peaches and roses and all going to be every play is going to be a good call. Like there's going to be some ups and downs with his play calling because it's his first time. Just like there'll be some ups and downs with Sam Howell because it's basically going to be his first full time starting in the NFL. So I do think that the similarities definitely could be there because one thing that a young quarterback, two things that a young quarterback, three things that a young quarterback, I should say, the benefit from are a good run game, a good offensive line and a good defense, and a good play caller that's making them comfortable and making it easy for them to go through their progressions in the reads. So if Sam Howell, and also I would say Tavita Pritchard, the quarterback coach, is going to be a big proponent in this offense as well with Sam Howell and how he's working with him. So if all three of those guys can combine and get Sam comfortable and EB gets his footing as a play caller and gets in a rhythm and really does start to show that he can be that guy and is that guy that can run his own offense, I definitely think that not just us, because I think that a lot of fans are making the comparison as kind of saying well, if Brock Purdy, a 7th-round pick, can do it, Mr. Irrelevant, why can't Sam Howell, who was once thought of a 1st-round pick, why can't he do that and be the same thing? So I think that if Sam, Eric Bieniemy, and Tavita Pritchard get all on the same page, make Sam as comfortable as possible, EB finds his footing and his rhythm play calling, I definitely think that it can be Brock Purdy, maybe even not to that level because I think they have a little bit better weapons, but I do think that it could be to that level and possibly even greater just because at the end of the day, the division is or the NFC is kind of weaker over here.
I forgot about McCaffrey.
Yeah, I was about to say McCaffrey,
Exactly.
Kittle.
I forgot about McCaffrey.
That's why I gave him the eggs. I was like,
right.
Tight end, Kittle's better, but then receivers, you could say us maybe,
Receivers
but
were better, but they have
when
McCaffrey.
you put
weapon.
McCaffrey in there, it's
Yeah.
that's like the tip.
They also have the ultimate weapon in the NFL named Trent Williams. I mean,
Yeah,
you can
their
put
line
that
is,
dude
ridiculous
all
too,
over
so.
the place.
Yeah, I do think they are. I'm not going to say they're underestimating.
Were you about to say misgendering?
No, underestimating. I was going to repeat the word he put in here with George W. Bush. I'm not going to say I'm not going to say they're underestimating him because if history were to tell you the 5th-round picks do not turn out well, right? But I will say this: it comes into luck, it comes into structure, in place, in time, and I think that that's what a lot of people are not taking in consideration for. And there's one thing I will say. People can say whatever the heck they want about you. They can strip away you being talked about being a 1st-round pick. They could talk about you being now a 5th-round pick and how that kind of puts a nail in a coffin in your NFL career. But what they can't take away from you is the hard work that you put in, is the hours and the training that you put in to make yourself better. And Sam Howell, up until this point, has done everything in his power to show that he is working. And it's not just to show that he's working. He's not just posting workout videos just to show that he's out there without a shirt on. He's actually getting his guys together. He's working out with them in the offseason. And then when you see here in training camp, they're hitting like on the ground running. There's no issue at all. And hard work goes a long way. And if Sam Howell keeps that up, I think he's going to be proving a lot of people wrong. But it's like a life issue, man, because in the NFL, 80% of it is mental. And it's just putting yourself in that position, being able and not being comfortable. And I think that's where Sam Howell is right now. And that's a damn good recipe for success.
Yeah. So I'll just touch on some of the other parts. I mean, Howell definitely has a stronger arm than Purdy. I don't even think that part's a question.
Yeah,
Purdy didn't have a
it's
strong
not.
arm at all. But the
It's just
mobility
the
thing,
Shanahan. It's just the Shanahan
the
system.
mobility thing's tough because Howell's probably a better north-south runner. Like Howell probably picks up more yardage with his legs, but Purdy last season was very good at moving around in the pocket and making plays and moving outside the pocket, throwing on the run. So that's a tough one. But I mean, just rushing yards, you got to give to Howell, but like playmaking, you give to Purdy. But in that offense, that's also just kind of what they do. But it'll be interesting to see how Bieniemy uses them, man.
Dude, and it's a recipe for success. I think Howell's the kind of quarterback that you would want if you were to replicate Kansas City Chiefs offense. That's the kind of quarterback you want: strong arm, mobile, and smart. Now let's move on to the next question from the Colonel. He said, "My only discomfort right now is our offensive line. Both our starting guards from last season are not here anymore: Norwell and Turner. Regardless of depth, it's going to take time for this unit to gel. Reed, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Kansas City have an iffy O-line and then rip off 2 Super Bowls in 4 years after trading us Alex Smith?"
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City's O-line, they were solid. I mean, Orlando Brown was very good, especially in the Super Bowl. Like they kind of gelled together a little bit late. Wiley had a surprising season, but I mean, Creed Humphrey's probably the best center in the NFL right now. I mean, he's definitely up there, top 2 at least. So they definitely have some players over there, but the guard situation is concerning. I still like Sam Cosmi. Left guard's going to be very interesting to see. I do think that having that white powerful side of Cosmi and Wiley over there on that right side is going to be funny. Those are just 2 brutes. Those are 2 Vikings that they got. And, no, I'm excited for it, man.
Totally.
James is distracting me. I'm sorry.
You're totally right. Now, I like the question a lot, and I'm not going to lie, it totally just went off my mind. But that is exactly what happened with Kansas City. They spent draft picks, high value draft picks on them. And obviously, it truly does help you to have Andy Reid calling plays for you. Now, that being said, we did get somebody here who is under the branch of Andy Reid for 10 years. And so probably knows a thing or two. And so I think that you're on the right mindset here in saying, because Washington did draft 2 offensive linemen. Yeah, they weren't as top half of the draft as the Chiefs were, but they did get better in adding depth there and also in free agency. So I feel really good about Eric Bieniemy just being here in the mindset and everything, and I think his offense is going to make the job easier for them. And also, it does help that Howell can scramble a little bit, kind of like Taylor Heineke, which helps, because if you're a deer in headlights back there like Wentz, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, like you said, like the line obviously got a little bit better whenever Wentz, who's like a statue, and like you said, kind of deer in the headlights, just kind of shook in the pocket, was back there holding on to the ball forever. And once Taylor got in there, yes, the line was still giving up some leaks and giving up some blocks, but a guy that was agile and mobile in the pocket, can move around, kind of has that playmaker kind of ability to him, like Sam Howell. I think it's going to bode well for this offensive line. We've had guys like Professor Paulson on and other guests that have talked about how Eric Bieniemy and the play calling is going to also probably help out the offensive line as well, just because it's not going to be a lot of 4, 5, 7-step drops. It's going to be 3, 4-step drops and get the ball out quick. Like I said, the West Coast offense is all about the timing and like the passing concept. So it's really going to come down to, yes, offensive line is going to have to gel together. And even going since Rivera's tenure here, there's always been questions about the line, but somehow, some way, like obviously Brandon Sheriff's an all-pro and a Pro Bowler, but all across the line, a guy like Eric Flowers, they brought him in, and people were like, "What are you doing? We have questions," and it panned out. So and Charles Leno, when they cut him from the Bears, people were like, "Oh, the Bears cut him. Why are you bringing him here? He hasn't missed a game since he's been here, and he's been the only solid piece on the line for the most part."
I mean, he basically
so I do think
against
that
the Giants last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Terrible camera.
So I do think
I
do think that the potential is there, and they got to gel together. But like you said, I think that Eric Bieniemy and the play calling, and just Sam Howell being a guy that's kind of a little mobile in the pocket and has a quick release and just getting the ball out quick with the West Coast offense should help the offensive line out a little bit while they're still trying to gel together and gain their footing.
Yeah, now let's move on to Twitter for our next question. This is from Scoot Reed. What things will you be looking at during preseason games?
Of course, obviously the offensive line is probably the biggest thing, but I'm also a low key thing that I'm interested to see is how the backup pass rushers do, because it's going to be interesting. We have those top four. I mean, just that said, I like our depth at defensive tackle, but I want to see how these backup edge guys do. I want to see KJ Henry. I want to see how some of these guys hold up, because they rotate the edge rushers is so much. It's going to be interesting to see, and I really like KJ Henry. I think that was a very good pick. I think he's super smart, so he's somebody I'm trying to keep an eye on.
And what I'm going to be looking at for preseason games, especially, is the offensive line up front for all three matchups, whatever starters, whatever they put in. I really want to see the offensive line not being put in those sort of situations that we saw last year. I want to be able to see these offensive guys, Terry McLaurin, getting those matchups. But obviously, Eric Bieniemy's not going to do that in the preseason. So if I'm going to say anything, I'm just looking at the offensive line, looking for better play. Just hoping that is the case. Obviously they worked a lot in passing in the OTAs and minicamp, and that's come to fruition here. And hopefully that really does translate for this offensive line, because that's one of everyone's biggest questions about this football team is the offensive line.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you guys. I'm mainly for the 90% of the focus is going to be in the offensive line and how are they moving together? How are they gelling together? Are they how are they making the calls? Are they like I said, gelling together? And if it had to be one other thing,
I'll add one more. Khalil Hudson, I'm gonna keep an eye on him.
Yeah. I guess another thing with the offense, I'm going to be looking for, because a lot of people said the West Coast offense compared to Scott Turner's offense, where it's kind of low verbiage and kind of just like a couple words and like a couple numbers, and that's the play call. Where the West Coast offense is a lot of verbiage and takes a while to get the play call out. So I'm going to be looking for them to see if they can get in and out of the huddle efficiently, be able to get to the line with enough time on the clock to make the checks, make the necessary calls pre-snap, and if they're getting any pre-snap penalties because of getting out of the huddle late. So pretty much that also goes back to the offensive line, because that's on Sam Howell in the center and the offensive line. So pretty much this is the offensive line in a whole.
And if I'm being perfectly honest, I didn't want to do this to your question, but the boring part of me says what I'm looking for is just health. Making sure that we're avoiding injuries. That's the biggest concern with these preseason games. Now, this next question is a fantastic one from our guy, Tony Franchise on Twitter. Reed, who is your favorite NFL quarterback of all time, and which quarterback do you wish would have worn the burgundy and gold? And you can't say Sam Howell, Kyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Favorite NFL quarterback of all time? I mean,
and that you would have wanted to wear the burgundy and gold.
I mean, I don't even really think it's a question to me. This is probably, if I was to start an NFL franchise tomorrow, I know Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. But if I'm starting an NFL franchise tomorrow, I honest to God might take Peyton Manning #1 over Tom Brady, just because I think he offers so much more. Like, put the accolades aside. I'm just talking about like what this person could do to you the moment that they come to your team. Peyton Manning, dude, that noggin just growing throughout the years with knowledge of defenses and stuff. And plus, on top of that, he's funny. He's a good interview. He's Peyton Manning's obviously one of the GOATs, and the dude gets it. I would take Peyton all day.
For me, Tony, it's very simple. It's very short and sweet. Tim Tebow. Nah, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Kyle Kelly.
No, honestly, my favorite
Colt Brennan.
My favorite quarterback of all
Tim
time.
Beck.
I mean, there's only one that I could really say because I'm a Virginia Tech fan, and that would be Michael Vick. But I can't really go with Mike Vick because he signed with the Eagles, and that kind of ruined things.
Plus,
and then
we got a bunch of dogs over here.
Yeah.
You don't want to mix it up too. Come on.
Yeah, so stupid. So if
Don't do my man Vic like that.
Hey, don't.
If
I guess
I'll
you shouldn't
say
have done the dogs like
if
that.
I'll say anybody,
Yeah.
I think your Reed is right. You guys know how I feel about the best quarterback of all time. I think it is Peyton, and I know that I said that Tom takes it because he went to Tampa and won one, and I get it, but
yeah.
I still feel like on a play-by-play basis, the way that guy played the game of football, that nobody else replicated that. And so if Reed, you're right, it's Peyton.
Yeah. See, thank you. It's about time we agree on something. We don't agree on anything, especially politics or
Right.
gender identity or securing the border, but we agree on this, and I'm happy about that.
So now I'm interested. Which side are you guys on for both of those?
Oh, it's
No,
Kyle. Kyle's over here. I'm an ally.
I
Dude.
know.
Kyle's-
I know what side Kyle's on.
I'm kidding. Kyle's an ally.
Taking our germs.
That's not me.
Nah, no, I'm just joking. No, but if I'm gonna go with my favorite quarterback of all time, like honestly, my favorite quarterback of all time is Michael Vick, just because
He
The
was
dude
so
was
good.
he's just a walking, living legend at the time. Whenever I was really like getting into football and like really
The Michael Jordan of
like
football, for real.
yeah, pretty much, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
and I was really
not the
like
goat, but yeah, the way he
Yeah.
changed the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, like learning the game. Plus, Mike Vick in this day and
He was
age,
in rap
and this
videos and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
He's like he was like not the first one to cross over, but he was literally like a cultural icon type of like
Right.
person. And yeah, I mean, like I said, this day and age, this type of football where the game's going, Michael Vick on this team right now we would be Super Bowl contenders almost every single year. And yeah, I mean, he's just a human highlight reel, and I think that, like I said, even with questions with the O line, a dude like that, you ain't got to worry about him getting sacked or to worry about the O line because kind of like Lamar Jackson, he can scramble out the pocket and break 180 yards on you,
Yeah.
and make you look stupid
I'll
while
agree.
doing it. So yeah, I mean, I love Peyton. He's probably my go-to, even though Tom Brady is obviously the goat per se, but just the smartest and most like you said, play-by-play, just down in and down out, most like deadliest
The
quarterback
forehead.
is Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Yeah, the forehead exactly. But
Mhm.
my favorite quarterback of all time, added to this team, would have to be Michael Vick.
Hey, real fast, the second option for me, it would be Patrick Mahomes has kind of become the greatest.
I was gonna say
like
Mahomes
in
too, but
terms
I
of,
was like, yeah.
but like in terms of skill set and stuff and the things that he does on the field. But before him, prime Aaron Rodgers was doing shit that you never saw before, dude. That dude throw against Dallas in the playoffs, like Aaron Rodgers is just
yeah, to
unreal.
the
Prime
tight
Aaron
end.
Rodgers was unreal, dude. He was so accurate.
right.
He was mobile. Yeah.
I just remember the
And
feeling.
he doesn't let he's against the vaccine. He says look into it.
Yeah, I'll never forget when that news story got floated that Peyton was thinking about coming to Washington. Do you remember that time?
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
man.
Remember
What
that
could've
rumor
been?
that we were about to trade Rod Gardner for Terrell Owens? Did you ever hear that?
Dude, Rod Gardner, what a pull.
Yeah.
All right,
And
now
what
let's
a
go to our
bum.
next question from Deucealicious. Thank you, Deuce. He asks, Hall, how many of the returning 53-man roster from last year will be thinned from the herd by kickoff week 1? I say at least 5 players and as many as 10. I'm not counting any player already released in my estimates. It's a new day. It's a new way, he says.
Carryovers from last year.
How many players will be not make the 53-man roster that were on the roster last year?
Yeah. Like to start week 1 or just at any point
at the
of the
start of
season?
week 1.
Start of week 1. That's a tough one. Man. I'll say cornerback room is crowded. DB room is crowded, so maybe I'll say Danny Johnson, but I can't even really remember I'm pretty sure he was on the roster week 1 last year, but I can't remember. But
I don't think
if
he
I had,
was.
yeah, I don't know.
know.
It's hard to remember back was on the
because
week
I
1
remember him
roster.
getting cut last year in preseason.
True.
After I thought
Yeah, I mean,
good.
I can't even think of anyone. I don't know. Maybe Dax Milne, I guess. Maybe that's
Well,
just
no.
personal.
He's not asking which players. He's saying how many players do you think
Oh.
could not come back from last year's roster?
Let's see.
He's
Dax
saying between
Milne.
5 and 10 is what his guess is.
Yeah, I'd probably say somewhere between 4 to 6 players. Like, yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, 4 to 6 players.
Yeah, because the big thing is, are they going to release like guys that they brought in here that off the street, and also the ones that they drafted this season? And I find it hard to believe that they would be willing to go that because it is the future kind of aspect to this. So I think that your number between 5 to 10 is probably about right, which is unfortunate. But that doesn't mean it's the end of the road. You know, we just talked about Danny Johnson, who didn't make the squad last year, came and was huge, crucial, and very important to his football team last season. All those times playing the slot corner, and he was doing fantastic, even on the outside as well.
Yeah.
So it's not the end of the road for these guys, but I could definitely see about 5 to 10 because you're right, Hall. They did add a lot to the secondary. They added a lot on the offensive line. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, you just a numbers game. Like every year that seems to happen. And I think between 5 to 10, that's probably a pretty good number when you think about the draft class coming in, like you talked about, kind of doubling up on the in the secondary, adding some more guys on the offensive line, and then they got some young guys coming in that can return kicks. They got brought in Byron Pringle, and so there's a lot of people that I think will end up making the team, and you do see that kind of every. Plus, we have no idea who the preseason standout's going to be yet, dog. Happens every year. There's always somebody who's flying under the radar.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because I had just made the thought in my mind. I have a question for you boys, but Reed, you're not allowed to answer it. Hall, between you and I, who do you think will be Reed's crush this year in training camp. And when I say crush, I'm not talking about just on a play basis. I'm talking about when the picture comes out of
You're
them
talking about
stretching.
Samus Reyes.
Yeah, the Samus Reyes stretch, where his legs are out, his glute is flexing and Reed's getting all chimed up like the Christian Bale in Psycho. What player is going to make Reed do that this year?
So just so you guys know, physical freaks. That's what I'm looking for.
We know.
Okay.
We know.
Samus is a physical freak.
I'll say a guy that said this offseason when he first came into camp, he's cut his body fat down like from whatever it was to like 9%, I think from like 13 to 9% or something like that. So he's also in the tight end room. He's poised for a breakout year if he stays healthy. The Reed 2023 crush will be Cole Turner. I think he's going to go for the luscious locks.
You think
I
so?
can see that. He's a bit goofy looking, but I could see that.
I'll say because the thing for me is I don't think it's going to be Cole Turner because Reed has a certain type. Reed is the type that he likes to get thrown around a little bit. He likes bulk with it. He doesn't like being the dominant one. And so if I'm going to say anybody, I'll probably say like KJ Henry. I think he's somebody who's most
that's a good one. Yeah.
He's somebody who I just mentioned. Yeah, that's true. I could see that. Oh, I could totally see that. I could see both of them.
I know.
You guys are making me sound
taking a dip to the dark side. I like it.
Yeah.
So I thought of that question earlier.
I'm not even going to make the joke that I wanted to make right there because I'll get in that.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, you don't have to say
something we talked about earlier.
Yeah, Reed. Now this next question from the Discord chat server, our guy Big Tony Shivers. Who do you think has more third down conversions this season, AG or Samuel?
Was that to me?
Yes.
Oh, I do think Samuel's going to be used a lot. The only thing is third downs. That's a good question because Samuel's going to be used in so many ways. Antonio Gibson's going to. Usually, I mean, your slot receiver on third and shorts if you're not running the ball. But at the same time, you can also throw a lot to your running back, and you know that they're going to get some carries. I'm going to go with Curtis Samuel just because that short game is so clutch with him. You can use him running the ball on end arounds. You could just line him up at running back if you want. You can use him in so many ways. And you can do the same thing with AG. It's just Curtis Samuel, like having that assigned slot role almost just makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. Plus, knowing AG is going to be used more as a wide receiver than a runner or more as a pass catcher than a runner, that kind of makes me want to lead towards Curtis Samuel.
And just speaking on from last year, Samuel did incredibly well on third down. He was very important to his football team, extending the chains, a lot of fourth down conversions as well. So I'll go with Curtis Samuel just for the simple fact, because this is kind of a trick question, Tony. If it's third and long, then yeah, I expect AG to get a lot more snaps and possibly more catches. But if it's third and short, then I expect B-Rob to be the third down back there because you don't want to have to stop that for 1 foot. He's a big dude that can run through it, so that's what you want on third down, kind of like Reed on the weekends. So for me, I'll say Curtis Samuel just for the simple fact that I am under the belief that we're going to be dealing with a lot of third and shorts and not so much of third and longs like last season. So I'll say Curtis Samuel will have more.
Yeah, that was going to be my point, or a little bit of my point is it depends how you're looking at the offense and what you think the offense is going to look like or what the expectation is going to be.
Look,
do you think they're going to be – yeah, man. Honestly, that Carson Wentz question you asked, Selby, I was going to ask that same question before you put your finger up, and I was just – I was just like – yeah, so but – yeah, I think if you're thinking that the offense is going to be clicking and there's going to be a little more ups than downs, then you're going to probably think there's going to be more third and shorts, third and 3, third and 4 type situations where that's where a guy like AG can come in, maybe even Brian Robinson too, but a guy like AG comes in handy because he can get the quick passes out the backfield. He can, if you need to run it up the middle or hit the outside zones, he can do that as well. He can be using the pass game in the slot, but same as Carter Samuel as well. Just like in the backfield, though, we've seen that last year with Scott Turner. Don't put Curtis Samuel, hand the ball off on like third and shorts to him. It's never going to do anything. But I think it will be close to answer the question. I do think that they're both going to be key on third down, but I'll go with AG just because if you go back to Kansas City, whenever they were in third downs last year, Jerick McKinnon was usually the back that was in there, and he converted a lot of third downs and a lot of clutch situations for this team, for the Chiefs last year. And just hearing AG talk in training camp yesterday, he said that he's going to be the third down back, kind of the Jerick McKinnon role that what EB told him. So he's been watching Jerick McKinnon tape, watching the whole offense as a whole. So I definitely think that, if they're going to use him like Jerick McKinnon coming out the backfield and third down heavy stuff, I definitely think the slight edge will go to AG.
And dude, I'll say that I love AG because in his presser today, he talked about how, or yesterday, he talked about how all those fans talking about they wouldn't come to games because of Snyder. Well, they better show up now. God, I
Mm-hmm.
love AG, man. Somebody finally said it.
That's my guy.
Now this next question is from the birthday boy. Happy birthday to our boy Scott Hartley in
There
the
he
UK.
is.
He's on
Scotty.
vacation right
Scott's-
now, going all
Scott's
through
the
Europe.
goat.
He is the
Yeah.
goat. And this
Scott's
is a
the
great
coolest
question.
dude. He's an interesting dude too. Scott serving in the Royal Military. And
Yeah,
stuff
I'm
like
really
that, whatever it's
interested to
called.
see what
It's
your
cool.
answer is to this question in particular because I feel like your imagination could run wild. He says, as it's my birthday, what's the best gift you've ever received? And it doesn't need to be Washington related.
Best gift I've ever received from him. 1 year on my birthday. Well, first of all, I will just start this with the love of my family. That's number one. That's always number one. And then, but number two,
Must be
when
sitting next to him.
I was in like they are. When I was in like third grade, I went to not a pro wrestling, but it was like a wrestling training center, and they had all these wrestlers, and they were like fighting in front of us and stuff. And I remember going in there and taking a bump, falling on my back, and being like, "Oh!" And then, of course, I tried to stone cold stunner one of the guys, and they were like, "Nah, dude, you can't do it. You're in third grade." And then we ate cake and stuff, so that was sick.
Not what I was expecting at all, by the way. It's like completely out of left field. I'll say the best gift I've ever received. I'm not trying to be like all like arrogant and everything like that, but I'll say it's the hat. You know, my sister got me this, and
You got it on your first
So
birthday.
arrogant.
Yeah, no.
So
No,
The
arrogant.
day
Well,
you were
I'm just
born,
not
you
trying to make
came
it about
out and they
myself.
put
I'm
that
just
hat
saying,
on you.
like in the
Remember,
podcast.
you were born without the top of your skull, and they put that hat on you the day you were
I
born.
What's the best you've ever gotten? I'm not trying to make it about myself, but
I'm just saying that like this was a hat I really wanted for a long time, and it couldn't find it anywhere. And my sister surprised me with it, I think for my birthday or Christmas one year, and obviously I haven't taken it off since. That's well
Literally.
documented at this point. So without a doubt, it's this hat, man. I love this hat. It's
It
the
is.
hat.
It's you
Yeah.
at this point. Yeah.
best gift. I'd have to say it's between when I was like I don't even remember how old I was. It was whenever Juan Dixon was playing for the Wizards at the time,
Damn.
and like he was just coming off of the like the Terps like big like championship. He was like a legend like in Maryland, obviously, and he was playing for the Wizards. And my aunt had done like she's like owned a catering business for forever. She did some stuff with the Redskins back in the day. She did some stuff with the Wizards, so she got it hooked up for me and my cousin who actually had the same birthday. She's just a year younger than me. We went back behind the Wizards like training or the gym. I guess it was like Verizon Center at the time. Went back there behind like the where the players come out, like the locker room area, stuff like that. Met all the players, got a bunch of signatures on a basketball, and then
Where's the basketball?
still in my closet.
Oh, good.
And it's kind of
Oh, it's
deflated.
hanging
It's
out
kind
on
of
your
deflated.
I thought you were
It's
going to
hang-
say it's like you've washed away, you used it.
No. It's like super deflated because I got
It's
it when
hanging
I was
out.
like
It's hanging out in your closet with
13 or
Kyle.
14.
Oh,
Come on, man.
And then I would say another one
You're not
would
now,
be
right?
another Wizards related one. My aunt took us to a game also, and it was when Michael Jordan was here, and we had like basically like right behind like courtside seats, and we were right next to the tunnel where they all ran out, and I like stuck my hand out, and Michael Jordan like high fived me and was walking out. And obviously, like he's the GOAT and like a living legend at the time. So I was like, "Oh, I've never washed this hand again. Oh my god!"
Yeah, I was about to
You
say,
licked
and
it.
that's crazy. You both have had Michael Jordan experiences, haven't you?
Yeah.
Kyle, you like kept his cigar or something.
Yeah, I have a cigar.
The
upstairs
famous
still.
booty hole cigar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's-
did that with Bill
It's the
Clinton's
worst
cigar.
joke in the world. It doesn't make any. You got all of a sudden started saying it was.
It's just funny to
Dennis
say.
Rodman's butthole. Like, this is so random, and now it's like that's what it's infamous for. Like, what are we
The
talking?
'90s
about?
were a wild time, man. I
That
don't
would
know.
make a lot of sense, actually, Kyle. You would totally keep a booty hole, Dennis Rodman.
See, now I'm pissed I even brought it up. Now I'm pissed because screw Dan, dude. Dan always
You know- hey,
ruins
you
all
wanna
the
hear
cool
something-
stuff
you
that
wanna hear
happens to me.
You want to hear something funny real fast? We got I have a Michael Jordan story. This is a legend. He was working, or no, my uncle owned a dating service in Seattle, and one of the people who worked there with him was having an affair with Michael Jordan. Allegedly, that's what I'm saying. And so my uncle used that against him to get us his basketball signed by him and sent it to me and my brother. But MJ's a dick and was like always thinking ahead, so he wrote it in pen, and you can't see it anymore. MJ was like, "Oh yeah, I got you," and then he just pulled a fast one on him, and now it's worth nothing.
Dude, I told you, man, that I've only seen out like just swag first time ever in my life with Michael Jordan, and that makes sense. He just crapped all over your uncle.
Yeah,
now, this next question in the Discord chat, this is a great question from Tim Towner. He asks, the league evolves every year, and we seem to have always been a day late to the party. With EB on board, will we still be behind, or at least be able to catch up with the play callers? And what is the one feature you want to see our offense improve in? Reed.
Oh, obviously. I mean, I want to see more of our if Eric Bieniemy. I want to see high percentage passes completed, and I want to see on the rare occasions that he does do something smooth, he does run some reverses, he does run some sort of trick plays. I want to see him actually work for once. Well, I'm so used to Scott Turner running shit and it not happening and it just going embarrassing. And it's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this, dude? I just want to be explosive for once.
I'm with you. One area that I want to see our offense improve in is the third down distance to yards to the first down. Last year we were in a lot of third and longs, and we have to be able to change that tide. The Chiefs are notorious for it. You know, they even run the ball on 3rd and 3, knowing that they're going to go for it on 4th down. That sort of thing. It puts you in a great position to be in. So if there's any facet, it's that for me.
I want to see some more pre-snap motion, even though Scott Turner did do a lot of pre-snap motion, but more, I guess, like more innovative pre-snap motion and more like innovative just overall play calls as a whole. But I want to see more efficient runs by the running backs and more efficient yards per carry, because an efficient running back in the West Coast offense is going to open up a lot of those like holes in the middle of the field, and a lot of those holes in the passing concepts in the passing routes, which obviously is going to make Sam Howell's job a lot easier. So if Gibson and Rodriguez and Robinson can be more efficient in the run game, which goes on the offensive line as well, I think that the offense will be humming.
Now, last one that we have from the Discord chat server from our boy Alid. He asks, as he who should not be named has left, do you all think that Ron Rivera has more opportunity to concentrate on the coaching side of things, and it will translate to an improvement on the field?
Dude, you just look at Ron Rivera this
Seriously,
season so far.
Seriously.
He just looks like a weight has been lifted off of his shoulders. He's smiling for once.
Somebody commented on YouTube and said he looks 10 years younger.
He does. Like, it's crazy.
He does.
That's what happened.
I was actually going to say, I don't know if it was the haircut or he has like a tan, but he was like literally like glowing.
Got a
he was
year-round
like,
tan, huh? But
that's true.
what? He's a darker complexion guy. He looks like he is like the world is just so easy. He's so relieved he doesn't have to deal with the goddamn eighth king of hell, Payman Snyder that we have over there. But so yeah, dude, yeah, Ron's that I think I've heard. Now this is just a rumor. I heard that Dan Snyder is the reason Ron Rivera got canceled. That's just alleged. I don't know, but that probably contributed to it. All that stress.
Don't say that, man.
He was.
I do think so. I do think it will help improvement on the field. The one crazy part that I can't wrap my head around is that Rivera said that this year he can more focus on with the defense, right? And that kind of took me back by surprise. Like, were you helping Scott Turner? And because were you forcing Scott Turner to do some things, or were you making adjustments on a week by week basis? And if that is the case, then why did you give him a raise or a contract extension in the last offseason? If you had to help him, why is he getting retained? And that's what I'm very, very surprised by that. So I think it will translate. I think just the comfortability of Rivera knowing that the offense is in good hands is going to help out immensely. The big question is, are they going to be able to make the changes to the defense in a quick amount of time? The past couple of years, it takes them a little bit to make the defensive adjustments that they keep getting bled dry with. And I understand to be patient with it, but sometimes they need to be more aggressive in those sort of moves.
Yeah, I was kind of not really taken aback, but I guess more of surprised when he said he would be more hands-on, because I thought he was more hands-on the defense already.
Right.
I thought it was like obviously I know Del Rio does the game planning, does like all the play calling, but I thought he was in like the defensive meetings and kind of working with them like a lot more than I guess he's leading on than he was. So I was kind of like tilted head at that. But I mean, he's a smart defensive mind. He's a defensive guy. So I guess like in theory, he can only add to the defensive room. And again, he doesn't seem like a guy that's gonna, especially with a guy like Jack Del Rio, he's not gonna let Ron step all over and like step on his toes and kind of interfere with what he's doing. I do think a guy like Scott Turner is kind of a guy that would listen a little bit more to Ron's input as opposed to like, no, this is my offense, let me do what I want to do type of thing. So, and I do think obviously everyone knows that EB is a guy that's going to be like, no, this
Unless
is my
he
offense,
went
let me
to
do my
Ron and was
thing.
like, help me.
Right. So I do think that, I mean, look, people have been complaining about the linebacker play for the past couple of years. Maybe Ron being in the room, a former linebacker, will benefit Jamin Davis and Barton and Khaleke Hudson a little bit more on the field this year because he can actually be hands-on a little bit more with them.
Yeah, and I know that people will probably comment and say that he meant more in like the managerial because he doesn't have that front office label anymore. But I'm just saying, based on what the conversation was and how he responded to it, it came across to me that he was talking about not having to worry about the offense anymore. And so just wanted to put that out there. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Just want to say sorry to Julie Donaldson, who is no longer the SVP of broadcasting for the Commanders. She's still doing the play-by-play and game days for them, but not the weekly stuff. It's unfortunate. I'm glad that she's still here because I was worried that they were just not going to have her around anymore, but I'm glad that we're still going to be able to hear her and Bram in London on Sundays. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. We'll see you on Monday. Deuce wanted me to tell you guys he's sorry.
I was about to say, dude.
He passed out from his nap, and I told him yesterday, I was like, dude, are you sure going to be able to? Because you're going to be tired. He said, no, I'll be good, I'll be good.
Yeah.
He hit me up, he's like, dude, you were right.
It's Deuce to talk. The dude is the man.
He really
He's
is,
everywhere
dude.
all the time. Yeah, he's awesome. He can come on anytime Deuce wants to come on. I don't care. Bring
I
Deuce
told him,
on.
I was like,
Deuce.
dude, don't sweat it, bro. It's all good, man. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Please enjoy training camp this weekend. Saturday is supposed to be popping. There's a lot of people going. Please be safe. Make sure you hydrate and be prepared with sunscreen or whatever have you. And then we'll be there on August 8th. I cannot freaking wait for it. I was telling the Discord earlier, man, I hate missing these camps. I wish we could go every day, but, you know, life, such is life, as they say. Yeah. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
Stupid work. I'm Hall.
And I am Colin.
All right, everybody. We will see you guys on Monday.
Win.
Washington football.
Colin Quinn.
Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.